Prowl 1701 here, and today we're going to be ranking the classic Doctor Who stories that have optional updated effects. So of the original series, classic Doctor Who, 28 stories have gotten optional upgraded effects that you can, watch if you want to. And 2 of those stories have actually gotten upgraded effects twice, the 5 Doctors and Enlightenment. A lot of the 5th Doctor stuff has gotten upgraded effects. Half of his run, actually, 10 out of his 20 episodes. So we're going to be ranking all of them from worst to best. And it's going to be several different things. How good the new effects look, how well they complement the classic episode they're in, how much I like the story itself, and how drastically they improve the story, in my opinion. Does it really make a story live up to its potential? Does it make a not so great story much more bearable? Or does it take an already great story and just enhance it a little and make it even better? A lot of different things that play into this and determine how I place the list. It actually took me a second to get the list down. It took the first pass was definitely not the final list. I had to go through and rewrite because it took a while to get it down. It was really hard to do this list because of all of the different factors involved and how I was judging it. For instance, does a story I really like with new updated effects, should it place higher than a story that wasn't so good, but the upgraded effects made it so much better? It was really hard, but we're gonna go through. We have 30 entries, because again, 28 stories, but both versions of Enlightenment and both versions of 5 Doctors are on there, so we have 30 places. We're going to start at the bottom. In 30th place with Planet of the Daleks. This is one of 2, these bottom 2. I prefer the original version. I much like the original effects for Planet of the Daleks better. For the most part. There's a couple of the modern effects that look better, like the eyes lighting up, and whenever you see from the Daleks' point of view, it's got better peripheral vision. But for the most part, I prefer the original effects. The cliffhanger to episode 1 is so much better in the original version. When the Doctor sees the little Daleks inside the cave, when it's the little model Daleks, looks way better than the CGI shot. I think the practical spaceship landing, which still looks a little naff to be honest, looks way better than the CGI ship landing, which looks way out of place to be honest. Just the cheap CGI they used for it doesn't look very good. I don't know. I feel like they did this one not because they really had their heart in it, but at this point in the range, every season had an updated effects story. We're going to do an effects story for every season. So they went ahead and just said, screw it, we'll do Planet of the Daleks really cheaply. I'll be happy. This one I definitely prefer to watch with the original effects. In 29th place is Planet of Fire. This one, the updated effects are fine. Sometimes they do look a little dated, a little too CGI-y, if that makes sense. The original version I like better. The biggest problem with the special edition of this is the movie-length cut and the cropped to widescreen. Instead of in 4:3, they cropped it down to widescreen, which of course means they had to cut out part of the picture to make it work. I don't really like Planet of Fire in that format, and that really hurts it more than anything. Effects, just comparing the 2 stories by effects, I still prefer the original, but the Planet of Fire's actual updated effects are fine, and a couple times I even like them better. The little added beginning part with the ship crashing is unnecessary. It doesn't need to be there. I don't really care for it. I think the story stands just fine on its own without it. But between the 2, if I'm going to watch Planet of Fire, unless I'm just in a mood to watch the special edition, I would prefer to watch the original. I don't actually need the planet to be on fire. It doesn't have to live up to its name. Planet of Evil is not an evil planet, so Planet of Fire doesn't have to be an on-fire planet. Number 28 on the list is Terror of the Vervoids. Now, it's only the trialless version of this one that gets updated effects, but you can only watch the trialless version of it with updated effects. I prefer the trialless version, unless I'm just doing a whole watch through of the season, which I don't do because it's Trial of the Time Lord. More than likely, I'm going to watch the trial-less version. I just prefer that because I like Terror of the Voids as a standalone story much better. Without having the trial scenes breaking up, every time something good starts happening, I get interrupted by trial scenes. That irks me. The special effects themselves, I don't really notice a big difference, to be honest. I always thought the practical effects in it were fine. The CGI effects are fine. I don't really have a preference between them. It's more just I prefer watching the trial-less version, so the updated effects win. Whereas actually comparing the practical effects to the CGI effects, just based on the effects, they're about a tie. I don't really have a preference. Number 27 on the list, and we're already getting into one. Well, no, I take that back. We're not quite into ones where I prefer the updated effects yet. 27 on the list is Snake Dance. Now, I haven't actually watched all of Snake Dance with the new updated effects, but I have watched on YouTube. I've seen a comparison between the old effects and the new effects. So I've seen what the new effects look like in Snake Dance. And much like Kinda, which is probably why they did it for Snake Dance, they just changed the snake to look a little more modernized in Snake Dance, probably just to have it match the CGI snake that was updated in Kinda, which is a nice little touch. I don't have a preference either way. They both look fine. I actually enjoyed the original snake effects in Snake Dance. It's much improved over the original Kinda effect. I think Snake Dance, the original effect, is fine. It doesn't need any updating. But the CGI one they've done to make it match the snake from Kinda also looks good. I don't really have a preference. I'm fine either way. The next time I watch the story, I'll probably watch it with the updated effects, just to watch it with the updated effects. But I'm fine either way. I don't really have a preference. Number 26 on the list is The Five Doctors, the 1995 edition, the original updated effects release with the Mr. Whippy effect and the brand new edit. Now, I feel like the new release, the 40th anniversary, has kind of made this one a bit redundant when it comes to the effects. Now, this one still stands on its own because of the way it's edited together, with scenes being rearranged, with scenes being added. I do believe this version is about 10 minutes longer than the original and the 40th anniversary version, which is neat, and some of the scenes are reordered, and that's fine. That makes it still a viable watch. The actual effects, there were a few of them I preferred, like the little beams that attack on the checkerboard that kill the Cybermen and stuff. I did like those on the 95 version better than I did the 83 version. But I never got into, like, say, the Mr. Whippy effect. I always preferred the original 1983 transmission version with the little, it's not actually a triangle, but the little five-sided trapezoid or whatever it was that swept down. I much preferred that, personally. So some of the effects from the 95 I prefer over the 83, but overall I preferred the 83 over the 95. I never liked when they returned Tom and Lala back to their starting point. They put them back on the boat instead of having the Doctor doing this and running into the TARDIS. I just love that better. So this one might be a little higher if we didn't have the new 40th anniversary edition, but I've always, for the most part, preferred the original over the special edition, although there were some things I liked better about the special edition. And it still stands out because it's still a unique edit of the story, which is nice. Oh, and I never liked the Doctors leaving by the time scoop at the end, when they all get into the TARDIS, and instead of the TARDISes going out, like in the original version, it's the time scoop taking them out. I never liked that. I preferred the TARDISes going out. I'm always happy the 40th anniversary version was the broadcast version. They went with the broadcast edit for that, which I like. Number 25 on the list is the 2023 updated effects for Enlightenment. I much prefer the 2009 edit because they extended a lot of the CGI shots. Because I'm still not keen on the 2009 version being in the 16:9 edit. And I do prefer the fact that this updated version is in the 4:3 edit. But because of the 2009 one being movie length, they could do a lot more with that, with timing and with the editing. And you could add in extra CGI shots, which it does. Whereas this one sticks more, I think, with the original lay out the original special effects shots in the sense of timing. I guess the original camera scripts maybe. And it's not as dynamic to me. It's not as cinematic looking to me. It's a little more boring look. Now I like at the end when they're approaching Enlightenment, the little Enlightenment hub. I do think that looks pretty cool and maybe better on this version. But I don't know, it just felt a little more boring and plodding along. I mean, the original effects for Enlightenment, the original effects for Enlightenment still look good. The original 1983 effects. I guess I'm just used to watching the 2009 version because that is my preferred version. And even though part of the story is cut out of it, the parts they chop out, I don't really miss. And while I do think that I think they toned down some of the special effects, like I think when the Guardians are appearing and disappearing, I don't think they really added special effects to that I noticed. Or when the Eternals disappear at the end, he's like, no, I think they still disappear their regular way like they did in the transmission version instead of having the added effect in the 2009 version. The 2009 version does get a little carried away sometimes. But I don't know, it just feels a little more boring here. The actual CGI, of course, does look better in HD with better textures and better technology. And it's still a good watch. I like all three versions of Enlightenment, to be clear. And if the 2009 edit didn't exist, I'd probably be really impressed when this one would be ranked much higher. It still looks good. I love the 1983 version, and I love the updated effects here. They're good. I just don't like them as much as I do the 2009 edit, which we'll revisit when we get to it on this list. Number 24 is the Talons of Wing Chiang. And some people might be like, why is Talons so low? Look, Talons is great. You guys know I love Talons. It's an amazing story. It deserves all of the accolades it's gotten over the decades. The only reason Talons is not higher is because it didn't really need updated effects. I mean, really the only thing you could say it needed was the rat. And the CGI rat is a big improvement over the original rat. But the rat never really bothered me that much. I was fine with it. It's classic Doctor Who. Yeah, it looks a little silly, but it's such a strong story, you overlook it. Like a lot of classic Doctor Who, a really strong story can make you overlook the not always there budget. So the rat never bothered me. Now there's a couple other things I like better. I like the little hypnotizing eyes better in the special edition, where it actually has the little green boom, boom things coming out, as opposed to the original effect where his eyes just like flashed white back and forth. That's a huge improvement. I prefer the original lasers shooting out of the dragon statue's eyes, where it actually shot out like laser beams, where in the new one it shoots like the little rings that look like the dragon's eyes. I prefer the original effect to that. And see, I don't really remember a lot of other updated effects other than those. The effect when people are getting drained of their life force looks just fine in the original version. I can't even tell if they updated that or not in the special edition. It didn't need it. The original effect looks fine. The only reason Talons is this low is it didn't really need it. Again, we're still kind of in that phase where most of them were getting at least one upgraded, one story. Every box set was getting upgraded with enhanced effects. So I guess they just went, let's give it to Talons. But other than the rat, and again, the hypnotizing eyes, I don't really think it needed it. That being said, I do watch it with the updated effects. I could watch either version and be fine. It's Talons. I love Talons. But if I'm sitting there with the box set in and I'm going, which version, I'm probably going to watch it with the updated effects. It's just, it wasn't necessary. I like it, but the story is already an 11 out of 10. So you didn't have to try to make it an 11.5 out of 10 for me. I love Talons. Number 23 is the Invisible Enemy. Now, Invisible Enemy does a great job of enhancing its stories. I always love when K9 has a more modern looking blast, and when the creature is like transferring from one person to the other. There's several really good updated shots there, although the Doctor running around inside of himself still looks like a CSO nightmare. You have Underworld vibes going on. Some of the shots in it actually look pretty decent, but some of the shots do not. The only reason this one is this low is that I just don't like the Invisible Enemy that much. I don't dislike it. It's perfectly watchable, and it's got a nice cast in it. I absolutely love the guy who plays K9's inventor. He's great. But just this one doesn't reach out and grab me. The updated effects do help it, and they are a substantial upgrade in my opinion. But since it's not a story I'm that interested in, it doesn't really rank any higher than this, even if the special effects are a nice upgrade. Again, I always love when K9's gun gets an upgrade. You guys know Prowl loves his upgraded laser blast. That is my #1 thing. Give me some upgraded laser blast. Next on the list is Maldron Undead. This one's going to get a few points for that scene when the Black Guardian and Turlo first talk, and it gets rid of that weird psychedelic kaleidoscope background that just looks, what were they thinking? And you know, it has that much cooler, ominous black wispy background that looks way better. The little bubble teleporting in and out is nice. The in-space scenes of Maldron's ship look better, especially right when it's about to crash into the TARDIS and you see that one shot of the TARDIS turning like this as the ship's coming closer. That's a really neat shot. I love that shot. And of course the ship blowing up at the end looks way better. So this is a very substantial upgrade in my opinion, but not like just top tier. Plus, I like Maldron Undead, but I'm not just super enamored with Maldron Undead. It's one of those occasional watch stories. Number 21 on the list is Kenda. And even though it is only that ending scene when the snake is free from the guy's arm, that is such an improvement over the original model that it has to be ranked at least this high. It's not a huge improvement on the story as a whole, but because it's there, it makes the whole story better. Does that make sense? The original effect of that is just ludicrously ridiculous. Like seriously, that can just kill the story for you, because that's supposed to be the climax of the story, and it's, even by classic Who standards, that could be the worst classic Who monster. It's even got the Merca beat. That could be the one you point to and go, so it really needed updating, and I'm glad they did that, because the end result with the updated effects is much more in line with what I think they were originally going for, and it looks very convincing, and it makes the story, even though it's Kenda, more enjoyable and end on a much better note. Number 20 is the Dalek invasion of Earth. I need to actually go through and watch this again, because as I was watching this, I kept forgetting to turn on the updated effects. So some of the episodes I saw had them and some of them didn't. But it needed them. It did need them. I kind of wish they hadn't gone with the modern series Dalek saucers, because they don't really use those in classic Who, so it feels a little out of place for them to have them here. But they look good, like the ship, the effect when they blow up the little car looks better. I don't remember a lot of the effects, but I do remember enjoying it. And this is the only story from the 60s that's gotten updated effects. The only black and white Doctor Who story that's gotten optional updated effects. Although, to be honest, most of 60s Who don't really need them. The existing effects lend them really well to the black and white medium, so they don't really need them. But they do look really good here, and it deserves its place on the list. Number 19 is Battlefield, and I cannot remember all of the special effects in Battlefield. It's been a while since I watched it, but I remember I liked them. I cannot remember which version of it has them. There's like 3 versions of Battlefield. I know it's of course not the broadcast version, but then I can't remember if there's a movie-length edit, there's like an extended VHS, there's like 3 versions of Battlefield. And my preferred one to watch, I know, is the one with the updated effects, like when she shoots the chopper down, when the green mist is rising up after he shoots the demon. I don't remember all of the updated effects. I honestly just need to give Battlefield another watch. But I do remember preferring them and liking them a lot. That's on the agenda sometime, rewatching Battlefield. Number 18 on the list is Terminus. Originally I had Terminus lower, but before I did this video, I've been watching some of Dan the Man's comparison videos. And Dan the Man is a great YouTuber. Check him out if you haven't ever watched his stuff. He does a lot of comparison videos where he compares the original effects with the updated effects side by side, so you can actually see how different they are. And I was watching a few of those, and I realize how much the Terminus ones really update the story, especially the effects where it shows the ship itself, like when they're docking with the station, when they're trying to defuse the engine from blowing up. They really do add a lot to the story. The beginning of the story, when the ship is kind of merging with the TARDIS and when the door is appearing for Nyssa, all of that looks much better with the updated effects. So while Terminus might not be the most popular story, the updated effects do make it stand out substantially more, in my opinion, which I didn't think in the original version of this list. This one was actually pretty low originally, but after rewatching his video, so I want to give Dan a shout out for that. I realized, nope, got to put Terminus higher because those updated effects look so much better than the original effects. Number 17 on the list is the Time Warrior. I do like the Time Warrior. This is another one where I kept having to remind myself to turn on the updated effects. That intro is worth it just for the intro. That opening shot of the Suntaran ship coming down into the atmosphere is majestic. It looks so good. My hat's off to the person who did that. Seeing it lower down from the window of the castle is much improved as well. The castle blowing up at the end looks way better in the updated version. Still a little CGI looking, but way better than the original version. Now, some of the stuff like Lynx's weapons shooting the beams, it didn't have to be there, but it's fine. I'm kind of fine either way with it's there or not. And then the scene when the Doctor is scanning for the Suntaran and then he sees the silhouette of him on the stairs, I think I might actually prefer the original effect there, because in the updated effect, it shoots the beam out and you see him sweep the beam across it, but in the original, there's no beam and it just highlights it when he draws it across the Suntaran. I do think that original effect works better, but the updated effect still looks good. So some of the updated effects I agree with, most of them I agree with. Some of them, one I don't care for, and some of them are either way. Number 16 is the Ark in Space. I'm kind of surprised this one is so high because there's not a lot of them. This is one of the earliest episodes to get updated effects in the DVD range, and it's just the external space effects, like the space station, the shuttle launching from it blowing. There's not a lot, but they still look better than the original model work, and I love the Ark in Space. It is one of the earliest Doctor Who stories I have memory of watching, so I have a huge fondness for it. And the model work for it's a little So I will admit that between the two, I love the model work a lot. It adds just a little extra panache to it. Even if the CGI does look a bit dated, it still adds just a little more to it for me. And it's, again, such a story I like anyway, but that's why it ranks this high. I do wish they would upgrade it a little further and upgrade like some of the laser blasts and stuff. Next on the list is Curse of Fenric, and this is another one I haven't watched in a while, so I don't I don't remember all of the upgraded effects for it. I believe the upgraded effects are only in the movie-length edit of it, which I prefer anyway. It's not just the upgraded effects I like. I love how they do the color grading for it more properly, because in the original version, sometimes it was overcast when it wasn't supposed to be overcast. Other times it was sunny when it was supposed to be overcast. So the special upgraded edition, the movie-length edition, they color grade it properly, where the beginning of it's a little more sunny and the end of it's where everything starts kind of getting darker and overcast like it's supposed to. It makes for a better viewing experience. There was a lot cut out from, I believe, well, actually from Battlefield and Curse of Fenric, I believe, because they were all overrunning, so they had to trim a lot off. A lot of that gets reinserted here, I believe, in this edit of it. I like it. I do enjoy the upgraded effects. I remember that. I don't remember what all of them are. I do remember old dude's eyes glowing way better now. And then the writing on the walls looking cooler, or the glyphs looking cooler. I don't remember all of them, but I do remember that version of Curse of Fenric being the definitive version for me. Number 14 on the list, way above the other one, is the 2009 version of Enlightenment. Again, despite the movie length and the 16:9 cropping, I think this episode flows better. It feels like I'm not missing anything that got cut out. I feel like It's 75 minutes. It's just a little over an hour. It has a cinematic look to it, and I love the CGI special effects so much better. They look more dynamic. They look more cinematic. I absolutely love them. Do they look a little old? Yes, they're from 2009, so they're not quite as polished as the new ones. But like the reveal at the end of episode 1 of all the ships is so much cooler. So much cooler than the original version, so much cooler than the 2023 version. Now, that is a longer reveal. It doesn't just show the ships in cliffhanger. It shows several shots of the ships, and there's a lot of them, and it's so much better because it's not intended as a cliffhanger. It's just a majestic little scene. It looks way better. When they're rounding Venus, looks so much better, especially how, and I believe they even mentioned this, when the ship is going into the atmosphere, it kind of mirrors Voyage of the Damned when the Titanic's going into the atmosphere. That shot looks so cool. Now, some of the stuff doesn't age well, like when they're looking from the bow of the ship. Not the bow, but when they're looking through the main window of the ship. I guess the bow of the ship, yeah. That looks very CGI, and it looks weird when it's intercut with the 1983 footage. That, I'll admit, looks a little odd. Sometimes they have some gratuitous shots that don't need to be there, like the sails and stuff when they look up before Turlo, I think, jumps off. But then, like the scene when Turlo is rescued by the other ship, I think the best version of that's the 2009 edit. The 83 version of it does not look good. The 2023 version does actually does something different with it, which I thought was neat. But I prefer the 2009 version when you see him catch him in the net. That looks cool. I like the glowing eye better that the pirate woman prays to better in the 2009 version. It's very obvious CGI, but I like the little wires coming off of it. Now, it has some extra effects it doesn't need, like the Guardians phasing in and out, that little extra effect for them it doesn't need, especially with the Black Guardian, because he's supposed to be able to go in and out of shadow so easily instead of having a white effect. The effect when the pirate captain is trying to blow up the main ship, they add an effect to that, which doesn't work. I like the pure blackness better because the power she's working for, the Black Guardian, should be pure blackness. That is one thing the 83 edit and the 2023 edit both do better, in my opinion. And even the ship docking at the end with the Enlightenment area actually looks better. Again, this is another one I rewatched comparison video on from Dan the Man's videos before I did this review. And it turns out that little bit when they dock at the end still looks good. The 2023 one might look a little better. I hope Dan does a video actually comparing all three versions. But I don't know, it flows better to me. I love the more dynamic look of the ships. I love when they're hitting the asteroids and you just see the asteroids bouncing off the ships. It's just, if I'm going to watch Enlightenment, it's going to depend on the one I'm in the mood for, but I think the one I will go back to the most is the 2009 edit. Plus, the 2009 edit has one thing going for it the 2023 updated effects don't, and that's two words, and that's Fiona Cummings. Because Fiona Cummings who of course originally directed the story in 1983, she did come back, and she is basically the one who directed the 2009 edit. And of course, she passed away in 2015, so she wasn't there for the 2023 edit. So it's always going to get an extra little bump for having her there, because I really like her as a Doctor Who director. And next on the list is Earthshock. Now, I don't think Earthshock has a whole lot of different things it did that I can recall off the top of my head. The main thing I remember is the laser beams have been updated. I don't think the Cybermen's weapons have been updated, but of course the purple laser beams that the good guys shoot have been. And again, we know how Prowl is about some updated laser effects. Now, to be fair, the original laser effects were okay. They weren't great. They were okay. Not great. The new laser effects look really good, and we get to see them a lot. So I like that. Huge win for me right there. But it mainly ranks this high for how it updates Adric's death, with it showing the planet and the ship getting closer to the planet. And then, of course, the ship actually impacting with the Earth instead of just hanging there blowing up, which makes no sense. So the fact that it actually makes the ship crashing into Earth actually happen on screen really cements it this high on the list for me. Plus updated laser effects. And number 12 on the list is Destiny of the Daleks, especially with the additional audio track available on the Blu-ray, the Season 17 box set, which of course makes the voice modulation on Davros sound better and adds in some other background sounds, I believe. But the voice modulation is a big deal. But I do enjoy the updated effects for the most part, especially the Movellan guns actually firing beams now. I always hate in Classic Who when someone is shooting a gun and there is nothing being shot from the gun that we can see. I never like in stories when it's either a sound effect or a flash of light, but there's nothing coming out. I have that problem with the Pirate Planet. I have that problem with Resurrection of the Daleks, and I have that problem with Destiny of the Daleks with the Movellan's guns. All of these things need updated effects because I need my upgraded laser beams. That should be priority, upgraded laser beams. So I like having the Movellans actually being able to fire their beams. The Dalek weapons look improved. You know, when the Movellan weapon gets put to Tom's head when he's trying to get Lala out of the thing, you actually see the flash on his head. So they're minor. The updated effects in this story are minor, but when you combine them with the new modulation for Davros's voice, it just makes the story pop more. It makes it the way the memory of my head makes it. If I had seen this story originally when I was a kid, I didn't, but if I had, this makes it the way it probably would have been remembered in my imagination, and I like that. Plus, I just enjoy Destiny of the Daleks. I don't know why. It's not like objectively a great Dalek story, but it's fun and I enjoy it. So it's this high. Plus, Tom Baker is very obviously having a great time. Him and Lala have started their relationship. He's clearly on cloud 9, and that's always a good thing. Next on the list, just slightly edging it out, is Nightmare of Eden. I've never watched the original effects of this all the way through, but I have watched Dan's comparison video, and the original effects for Nightmare of Eden are... Now, the original laser effects are neat. I like how they alternate between blue and green. That's pretty cool. But some of the ship effects just look clunky. So I do enjoy the updated effects here. I like the new laser beams, although why they picked teal as the color, I don't know. Teal has got to be the most boring color ever invented. So I wish the laser beams were a different color, but they do look better while still not looking as good as one of the YouTubers who does his own updated effects for stories has much better updated effects for the lasers in his version. You know, the guy whose name I can never pronounce. It's like C-U-N-N something. I cannot pronounce his name to save my life. But he's great, and his updated laser effects look better than the official ones. But they still look good. The updated effects for the spaceships and stuff all look good. The updated effect of Lala getting stung by the little wasp thing looks really good. And just in general, the updated effects make the story a lot more watchable. I don't know if I would enjoy Nightmare of Eden a lot with the original effects, but with the updated effects, I found it a good watch. And again, it's a story where we get some updated effects for K9, his red beam and his blue beam. That was pretty cool. And some other lasers in there. And again, I love my upgraded lasers. Cracking the top 10, we're going to start with Castrovalva. I've always liked Castrovalva anyway. It's my favorite Davison story. The original effects are a little wonky, but the story's always been fine. The new effects just work better for me. The lightning striking everybody at the beginning. All of the TARDIS heading toward the black hole looks better. Them seeing Castrovalva before they walk up to it looks better. All of the disorienting scenes of Castrovalva itself are still disorienting, but they look way better now. The Master revealing himself to be the Master at the end looks better now. The original effects were okay, a little wonky at places. It needed some updated effects, but the updated effects really make the story live up to what the story is going for me. And I love Castrovalva, again, my favorite Davison story, so I always watch it with the updated effects now. They really just add a little punch to it I like. Plus I like the fact they fixed the question mark collars on Davison in a couple of things, like when he's levitating sideways and his question marks were backwards, they fixed that. And I like the little touches like that. Number 9 on the list is Revenge of the Cybermen, and there are a lot of them here. First off, the special effects look really good. Like, they look better than most of the upgraded special effects Doctor Who gets in the classic range. Most of the ones the ones we're talking about on this list, this is one of the ones that look the most polished. Maybe they went all out because it was the first Blu-ray box set released, so they really wanted to make an impression, but Neil did such a good job with these. And then there's so many of them. Like, a lot of them are small things, like view screens, like when they're looking at the view screens, when the people who run the station are at the beginning and the Cybermen are later, just the view screens look better. The ship shots, when you see the external shots of the Cybermen ship and the external shots of the space station, like the very beginning shot when you see the TARDIS and everybody and the Doctor and everybody arriving on the space station, looks so polished. It's not just the fact that the upgraded effects look better than the model effects, but they look so polished. There's just like a more of an air of professionality to them. They look like more time was taken for them. They have a more polished look. I enjoy, again, the shots of the Cybermen. I like the shots of the rocket. The actual shot of when the Vogons launch their rocket looks way better now and doesn't just look like a stock NASA rocket launching. The shot at the end when the Doctor is steering the Nerva beacon away from the planet, and it's doing the leaning, and then you can see the surface on the planet on the view screen is 1,000 times better than the original shot. And the original shot was fine for what it was, but it just looks so good. And how it cuts to that third-person view of Nerva beacon rising back up, that is a majestic shot. I absolutely love it. It looks so good. The original version of it was always fine for me, but it adds, again, it just looks so much better. Remember when it was first announced, I was like, did Revenge need it? But then I watched it and I was like, wow, that's better. That's really, really better. I tend to love Revenge of the Cybermen a lot anyway. I do consider it to be the most underrated story in all of classic Doctor Who. And I feel like these updated effects just give it another reason for me to think that, because they are some of the best upgraded effects we've gotten. They look so good. Neil did such an amazing job. Number 8 is Revelation of the Daleks, mostly for the upgraded Dalek blast effects. I love that. It really helps when the Daleks get to fighting each other toward the end. The upgraded Dalek effects look so good. The upgraded other weapon effects, like the guy and the girl who are trying to rescue her dad have, their upgraded effects look good. The glass Dalek materializing in the room looks so much better now. Instead of like that 8-bit materialization, it's a much better realized materialization. Davros, when he's attacking people with his laser hand, that looks better. Like when he has the assassin guy on the ground and he's electrocuting him. 1, the effect on his hovering looks better. 2, the effect of his lightning, which looks a little more wild and everything, looks way better. The effect when the fake Dalek, Davros' head gets killed and it has that more blue tint to it, that looks better. The hovering Dalek looks better. We can actually tell it's a hovering Dalek now. There's just so many well improved shots, and it just makes Revelation of the Daleks that much more enjoyable. And how a lot of the updated effects still pay homage to the original effects, like the updated effect for the DJ's gun. Still looks a lot like the original effect, just better. It's really, really good. It takes a story that's good anyway. The actual story of Revelation is good. It just adds a little more to it, which I like, especially the Dalek Blast. I love the Dalek Blast. That was number 8 on the list. Number 7 on the list is Terror of the Autons. Now, most of Terror of the Autons is really just cleaning the story up, polishing it a little, It's really just cleaning up some of the bad CSO, some of the bad backgrounds, making the killer doll look a little more believable and less like somebody in a suit. It's more about making the story look like your memory of the story would look like. Again, if you had watched it as a child and hadn't seen it in 2 or 3 decades, making it live up to that. To where the awkward CSO is less noticeable, because there's so much of it in this story, is less noticeable, and it looks more like the story should. Really, the only big change is the nesting creature starting to materialize at the end. And personally, I'm fine with that upgrade. Some people I know don't care for it. They feel it's a little jarring. I don't. I think it looks fine. It's a nice callback to the way the nesting looked in Spearhead. Doesn't bother me. The original effect also doesn't bother me. I do enjoy the cleanup CSO, so it's not as obvious. The fringing is not as obvious. The little outline is not as obvious. It just works and looks better. That's the reason why it's this high. I think it's the best version of this story we can get, and goes really well with the remaster they did on the episodes themselves. Number 6 on the list is Logopolis, Tom Baker's final story. I really like this mostly because they edited in the new backgrounds that was actually filmed at Jordan Banks or whatever it's called. The place where they wanted to film originally, but they couldn't, so they had to use the model shots instead. I love the fact they actually got to film with a drone there. So the shots of it just look more dynamic and real. It makes the final part of the story feel more real. I like how they changed the background to match it better when Tom and the Master are climbing up the ladders and fighting over the gun and Tom's falling. They added in the shot of Tom actually falling, of him hanging a little more and then him falling. I like that as well. Part of me wishes they had upgraded the regeneration effect a little bit, but I'm also fine that they didn't, because I do think the original regeneration effect is fine. The other stuff, the other updated effects were fine. I don't remember them as clearly. I remember the TARDIS shrinking down and growing bigger, looking better. And I remember some of the effects of Logopolis itself, although one shot looks a little too CGI-ish, it still looks good. I don't remember all of the upgraded effects, but that ending part I talked about really bumps this up this high for me, especially as a huge Fourth Doctor fan. I want his last story to look as good as it can, and it pulls it off really well. Number 5 on the list is Time Lash. Why is Time Lash this high? Because it makes a story that some people might call unwatchable, watchable. I've never watched the original version of Time Lash all the way through with the original effects. I watched it for the first time when the box set came out, and I watched it with the upgraded effects, and that might be one of the reasons why I enjoy Time Lash, because I do like Time Lash. But I have watched, again, Dan's videos online comparing the original effect to the upgraded effect, and those original effects do look rough, especially all that time he spends on the Time Lash itself. It doesn't look very impressive. It looks like it was done on a budget as filler. Definitely what would be the weakest story of the season. The upgraded effects look like they really put a lot into it. Like they really put some budget into the effects. It looks like, anyway. I like the Time Lash effect looking like the Time Vortex from Tom Baker's intro, but like a CGI version of it. It's a nice little Easter egg. I love the updated way they did the Time Lash with the kind of glowing blue effect. Those scenes still go on too long, and it does get grating on the eyes, but that effect still looks 1,000 times better than the original effect. The upgraded laser effects look really good. The one the Doctor fires to send the robot back in time looked really good. The upgraded effects for when the Borat ages people look good, although the original effects actually look good for that too. Just all of the upgraded effects come together really well to make it combined with Paul Darrow. A really fun watch, actually. I enjoy Time Lash, and one of the reasons I enjoy Time Lash might be the upgraded effects. So it ranks this high because it takes a story I might not have liked and makes it into a story I like. So I have to rank it highly for that. Number 4 on the list is Arc of Infinity. Again, because the upgraded effects really help this story out. Now, I saw Arc of Infinity when I was little. It's one of the stories I have early memories of. But I haven't watched it with the original effects since I was little. Every time I watch the story, even when I bought the original DVD, I always watch it with the updated effects. It's got a lot of updated laser effects. We know Prowl likes updated laser effects. So I definitely watched it I always watch it with the updated laser effects. I like the actual updated laser effects, how there's a little shine around the gun when it fires, the actual laser effect looks good, how it kind of, there's a little like scatter damage when it hits somebody. I like that as well. I'm trying to remember some of the other updated effects. The gun that the Ergon uses looks way better. The effect when it hits somebody looks better. The original effect of them changing between inverted colors and regular colors look good, but the little digitization they add to it looks really good. The Doctor, when he thinks he's getting killed, and that has that little beam coming down, and then it shows him fade away into dots, and then reappears dots, kind of like his intro, is a nice little effect. It's another one where it takes a story I liked anyway and just makes it better. Anytime somebody tells me they don't like Arc of Infinity, I'm always just wanting to go, have you seen it with the updated effects? Because they really, much like with Time Lash, it just adds more to it. Even though I like the original version of Arc as well, it just adds to it, makes it more enjoyable, makes it more like your memory of it might be. And I like that. Number 3, and for the same reason, is the Invasion of Time. Now, I've never watched Invasion of Time all the way through with the updated effects because I don't own that DVD. It is on the wish list, on the Amazon wish list. Check that out. But I have watched Invasion of Time with its original effects, and that's one of the things it suffers from the most is the original effects. You can just tell the budget ran out. It really hampers this story. It's not the best story to begin with, but it really hampers it. And the updated effects, because again, I've watched Dan the Man's video where he compares them, so I've seen the updated effects themselves in sequence. And it really does a lot to help the story. The updated version of the Vardens is a gajillion times better than the original. They look a lot better. I like them. They make more sense. The transitions between their main form and into humans looks better. K9 actually gets his laser blast. There's upgraded lasers, I think, from the people using guard. And I love the fact that the model effects are not replaced with CGI effects for the ships. They're just enhanced. A lot of the model effects for the ships do have enhancements added to them to make them look better, and they do look better for it. Because the original model work was actually pretty good in this story. So it's just taking that good model work and adding to it, and I really like that. And I actually think I would enjoy this story more. I mean, you still can't fix those TARDIS interior scenes, let's be honest. But I do think I would enjoy this story more watching it all the way through with the updated effects. And that's the reason why it places this high on the list, is just because it adds so much to a story that its main problem is its lack of budget, and just makes the story pop a lot more to where someone might find it more enjoyable than if they just watched the original version. And number 2 on the list is The Five Doctors, the 40th Anniversary Edition. This is could be like the benchmark for these now. This is polished. Once again, Neil has done a fantastic job. This is kind of the gold standard now. These effects look so good. I love the new time scoop, how it kind of pays homage to the original time scoop effect, but it looks so much better, and it makes so much sense the way it's designed and how it captures them. And when it captures them, you can kind of see them within it as it takes back off, and how it captures them, that kind of green effect underneath as it closes in on them looks so good. The new effect for the 4th Doctor and Romana trapped in the vortex, or trapped in the, whatever it is, the time eddy, vortex, whatever, looks really good. It's easily the best of the 3 effects they've done for them being trapped. It looks so good. I love the fact that it follows the transmission version, because I do prefer that version, like seeing Tom at the end doing his, and then going into the TARDIS. I really love the new effects when the Doctor is pointing out their plan to enter with the 1st Doctor. The 5th Doctor and the 1st Doctor are talking. He's like, well, you know, there's an entrance on the top, the middle, and the bottom. That new 3D design looks so much better than the old design. The old design always bothered me. And the fact when he's touching the screen, it's almost like a touch screen. You can see the little ripples around his fingers as he's touching. It looks really good. The improvements to the Tower of Rassilon and how much better it looks now. Like when the 1st Doctor and Tegan are looking up at it, when the 3rd Doctor and Sarah are standing at the top. the new effects of the Cybermen's Blast, the new effects of the checkerboard trap, the new effects of the lightning bolts, the new effect of the Rastan Warrior moving I didn't really need. I love the fact they cut out so many of the jumps because there's way too many jumps of him moving around. So I'm actually kind of glad they cut some of that out because it does get a little tedious. But the new effects of him teleporting look good. I don't think you needed them, but they look good. I can't even remember all of the effects, but it looks good. It looks really polished. It looks really nice. And it's nice to have a definitive version of the 5 Doctors I like to watch now, because I can never quite make up my mind between the other two. Even though I preferred the original, there were some things about the special edition I like more. This 40th anniversary, though, is going to kind of be my default one to go back and watch. Everything just looks, much like Revenge of the Cybermen, there's just more polish to it, more of a professional look to it, more like it was made recently and not in like 2009, 2011. And I love that about it. It just, the 5 Doctors has always been a story I like. It's my second favorite multi-doctor story. And this just gives it that little bit of polish that I think it needed. It was definitely due for some more modern, updated effects. Since the one it got last time were in 1995. Everything just fits really well. The teleport, when they teleport via the transmat, I think I might like the original effect better, but that's a nitpick thing. The new one still looks fine. And combined with how good the story looks on the box set, you can't beat it. And number 1 on the list, my favorite updated effects for a story is, of course, Day of the Doctor, the special edition. Once again, taking a story that's a really good story and making the execution of that story live up to the story. I've talked about that before. The original version of Day of the Daleks is fine. The omnibus version is fine. They're watchable. But the execution of the story was always lacking compared to the ideas of the story, the content of the story itself, the writing of the story. Whereas the special edition adds in laser beams. We know I like that. Because in the original version, the screen would just flash and then something would be destroyed. I love the fact we actually get to see these shots now. It takes out the flash and adds in the laser beams, and that looks so much better. I love the laser effects. I love the effect of when they hit something and it just kind of blows up. It adds in some gunfire from the Brigadier at one point. It adds in the Dalek effects of their guns look way better now, and when they're killing people, you actually see their skeletons. The new footage they shot for it. They shot new footage for the ending battle, and that ending battle is so much more climactic now, with more Daleks running around, more scenes added, more chaos, and the special effect upgrade of all the lasers being fired and stuff. It just culminates to a much better viewing experience. Now, there are a couple times when they got carried away. Like when it shows the CGI future of the Dalek ships circling the buildings, that definitely looks like 2010, 2009, 2011 on a budget CGI. And then the kind of time vortex when it's going back and forth to the future looks a little dated while still being fine. I do like some of the other upgrades, like when people do disappear and reappear, that kind of tan swirl that surrounds them now looks. The original effect looked good, but that other swirl looks better, like when the Dalek appears or when the soldiers are appearing and reappearing, or disappearing and reappearing. Looks better. I like when the Doctor's holding the device and he's shaking it, and it's shaking, and it's got a little effect around it now. That looks better. And, of course, the updated Dalek voices. We have to talk about the updated Dalek voices. This could win hands down just for the updated Dalek voices. The updated Dalek voices are so much better. Now, the original Dalek voices, I feel like if you're watching the original version or the omnibus version, you adjust to them. Like, they're very bad at first, but you get used to them and they're fine. But the updated version just sounds better. Just Nicholas nailing it. And I love the fact he recorded it on analog equipment to make it sound more like Classic Who. It just gives the Daleks much more of a punch here. So it's just this perfect storm of everything coming together here. Upgraded effects, a handful of times where you don't need them, but for the most part where you do need them. Adding in the laser effects, adding in new footage to help make the climactic battle feel more climactic, and redoing the Dalek voices. It's exactly what a special edition needs, and I would love to see more stories get this kind of attention and love. So Day of the Daleks winning the #1 spot for me, the special edition. So I want to know what you think of this list and how you would rank these stories. So comment down below and let me know. Other things to do, don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button and the bell for notifications as well. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. There's a link to that down in the description below. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. And Simon joined recently as well. Simon, a huge supporter of the channel, has sent a lot of things to the P.O. Box. He joined the Patreon recently, so I wanted to give him a shout out. I also wanted to give a shout out to Alice Collins, who has been with me for a long time. She has been in my $10 tier for a long time, which is still one of my higher tiers. And she's been with me for quite some time. And I definitely wanted to give her a shout out. She definitely deserves it. So I appreciate everyone who continues to support me on Patreon. I also have a P.O. Box. If there's anything you would like to send, that is down there as well. A link to my Amazon wish list is also down there. YouTube memberships are available, most importantly. Thank you for watching. Next on the list is Earth Shock. Now, Earth Shock doesn't have a whole lot of updated effects, I think. It's probably a bunch of little ones I can't think of. One thing it does have, ooh, I gotta take a break.